أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين الحمد لله رب العالمين الحمد لله الذي جعلنا من المتمسكين بولاية سيدي ومولاي علي بن أبي طالب والحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. In the name of God, the most beneficent, the most merciful, we ask Allah to send His greatest peace and blessings upon Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. We praise Allah for all the blessings He has given us, and the greatest blessing being that He allowed us to be of the ones who remain steadfast, dedicated, and loyal in the path of our Master after the Prophet, the Commander of the Faithful, the Prince of the Believers, the Protector of the Prophet and His message, Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. We praise Allah for this blessing and every blessing, for without Allah we would have nothing. Assalamu alaikum, my dear respected brothers and sisters, wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today we're going to be continuing the conversation that we've been having over the past couple days in the theme of the vision of a virtuous community. Inshallah, today what we're going to be focusing on is what is the difference after receiving this divine guidance that we've been speaking about. With this divine guidance, is there a difference between being a mu'min and a Muslim, being a believer and one who has accepted Islam? Is there a difference between Islam and Iman? If there is a difference, what does that difference look like? Not just merely theoretically, but practically speaking, from the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Holy Quran and the words of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam in practice in their conversations with their companions. The companions had questions about what really made Iman versus Islam, what really made a believer versus simply or merely a Muslim. There was a young man, his name was Zayd. Zayd went to school for architecture. Zayd was really, from a young age, just mesmerized by architectural structures. And wherever he went, he admired architecture. It could be a small bungalow home in the city of Detroit, or it could be a beautiful mosque that he visited in Turkey, or in Iraq, or in Lebanon, or in some other country that he was visiting. Zayd had a great admiration for architecture from a young age and decided that he was going to go to school and study architecture. And his dream would be to not just be that architect that would draw these blueprints and these designs, but that his blueprints and his designs would become reality through construction. It wasn't until about 10 years after his studies that he was able to actually see one of his design projects come to life. And in that moment, when his design project first began being erected as a construction, he began crying. And his friend was with him that day when he saw him begin crying after seeing the beginning of the construction take place. And he asked him, he's like, Zayd, why are you crying? What's going on? He said, you don't understand. Now I really know what it means for me to have what I believed in, what I studied for, everything that I was doing all along. Now it's actually coming to life. It's not a theory anymore. It's real. From the example of architecture, we can see a lot of relevance to the whole idea when it comes to Islam and Iman. The Holy Prophet Muhammad was one who emphasized the practical approach to our religion and to our faith. He was a man of the people. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent us not a celestial being, not an angel, not someone that was different from us, but he was the individual that was the best amongst us. He showed us from the heart of humanity, showed us what it truly meant to be human, what it truly meant to be a servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, acknowledging your purpose and living up to it every single day. From his very first days, our Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, was one who was respected, regarded, loved, and adored by all people. No matter who crossed his path, they couldn't help but respect and admire him. He was known as the Sadiq al-Amin, the trustworthy and the honest, even before he became a prophet in the eyes of the people, in publicly acknowledging him as a messenger of God. Before he came with that revelation in which he told the people, this is Islam and I have been sent to you as its prophet, people loved him, people adored him, people trusted him. Our Holy Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, showed people what it meant to not only believe in God, but put it in a lifestyle of practice. You and I can benefit not just merely of looking at the life of the Holy Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, and admiring him for all the great things that he did, but more specifically, look at some of the actions that he had with the people that were closest to him and even the people that were farthest away from him. One of the beautiful stories when it comes to the ethics and the manners of the Holy Prophet and us in the holy month of Ramadan, we can take benefit of this, especially when it comes to testing our patience, testing how we are interacting with one another, with our neighbors, with our friends. Again, whether it be physically in front of people or virtually. Now, a lot of us are forced to only engage in this virtual interaction, but at the same time, it's real. We're having this interaction, we're talking with one another, right? One of the days that the Holy Prophet is walking by his house, walking away from his house and crossing the street. He's walking on his path, and along this path, he crosses the home of an elderly woman. And this elderly woman wasn't so fond of the Holy Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him. So what did she decide to do? Every single time that she saw him coming and crossing her home, she decided that she was going to take out her trash. So she takes out her trash, and not simply you and I, when we take out our trash, it's in the receptacle, we put it on the corner, on the curb. She didn't want to put it in the receptacle. Instead, she decided to throw her trash, throw her rubbish at the Holy Prophet. And she accompanied that physical rubbish with verbal attacks on the personality of the Prophet. The Prophet didn't change. His smile remained. His beautiful manners continued. He would just shrug it off and keep on his way. This would happen on a consistent basis. Day after day, the Prophet would be met with her garbage and he would continue to smile in her face. One day, this woman does not come out. And you and I, it might be, wow, perfect. This is great. No garbage today. I don't get my, didn't come out today with her garbage. Taking care of her, began taking care of her. And the narration says that after a couple of days of him checking on her and taking care of her, she gained her consciousness to understand who this individual was that was on her bedside, helping her, feeding her, tending to her. And it was Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. She questioned him, asked him, why are you taking care of me when I've been throwing this rubbish at you all this time? He said, I was sent to perfect the best of ethics. And citing the verse of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where God says, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ, and we have not sent you except as a mercy to mankind. The Holy Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, this idea of being that mercy to mankind and being the one who would perfect our conduct with one another, emphasizes to us this aspect of us truly acknowledging our religion and our faith and bringing religion and not just merely taking it as a concept and as a theory, but putting it into practice. It's actualized by you and I, how we look at one another, how we conduct ourselves with one another, and how we think about one another. This idea, this self-concept of how we look at ourselves, we look at one another, and we engage with one another, inshallah, something that we're going to be talking about in greater detail after we've covered this basis of what Islam means, what divine guidance is, and what Iman is, and what's the distinction between the two. We're going to go into a number of narrations, some verses from the Holy Quran, specifically on this discussion, a theological distinction between Islam and Iman. And when we're looking at this, brothers and sisters, keep in mind this idea that we mentioned, the story of Zayd as that architect who is looking at his work when it comes to his blueprints, and then when they finally come to life in construction. That is a nice example, a nice analogy of what Islam is, as you're accepting this as a belief, as a faith, as you're accepting this as a belief in concept, that I do believe in God, I do believe in its prophet, I do believe in its tenets, but then Iman translating into action. And we're going to see this with the narrations that are shared with us from Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam and some of the verses from the Holy Quran. The first narration that we're going to be looking at is this narration from Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam that is cited by Al-Kulayni in the book Al-Kafi, this renowned book of hadith that we cite to many of our narrations from, that al-Iman iqrarun wa amal, wal-Islam iqrarun bila amal. Faith is to accept and to practice, while Islam is to simply accept without practice. The distinction here is what we've just been emphasizing. You have this idea, Islam, accepting, submitting to La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. But then the extra step that comes into play is what? When I am going to practice and make this as part of my lifestyle of La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. Imam Rada alayhi salam has a beautiful narration. And we're going to look at this, and I want you to think about our relationship with Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam when it comes to the whole idea of being a true believer. The Imam says, "Man ahabba lana asiyan fahuwa asin, wa man ahabba lana muti'an fahuwa muti'." Whoever loves someone who disobeys us, he himself is in disobedience. Whoever loves someone who obeys us, he himself is in obedience. وَمَنْ أَعَانَ ظَالِمًا فَهُوَ ظَالِمٌ وَمَنْ خَذَلَ ظَالِمًا فَهُوَ عَادٍ. Whoever helps an oppressor is himself an oppressor. And whoever abandons an oppressor is just. إِنَّهُ لَيْسَ بَيْنَ اللَّهِ وَبَيْنَ أَحَدٍ قَرَابَةٌ وَلَا تُنَالُ وِلَايَتُنَا إِلَّا بِالطَّاعَةِ. Indeed, there is no kinship between God and any of his creations. Indeed, affiliation with us is attained only through obedience to God. I want you to keep this narration in which Imam al-Rada alayhi salam, our eighth Imam, gives you a number of points to compare and contrast to. Look at the concepts here when it comes to the specific issue that he's talking about, which is this affiliation to Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. These individuals who are the best servants and representations of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, he's talking about these matters being in disobedience and obedience. And people who are looking at abandoning or joining. Of course, there is no kinship with God, that there is one cannot say that they have a relationship to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala established by the fundamental belief that there is no God but He and there's no partners ascribed to Him. That connecting directly to what? This understanding that we have when it comes to obedience and disobedience. Obedience to the Imam is obedience to the Prophet. Obedience to the Prophet is obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you are going to have a connection or a relationship of obedience to individuals who are at odds with Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, be in theory, in concept, in belief, or in practice, then that is going to have a disconnect with Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam and that relationship with them. Next hadith that we're going to be looking at is a hadith by Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam, and you'll notice that there's a number of narrations specifically from Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam in which he explains to us what is the role or what is the position of the believer himself. What is the position of a follower of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam as someone who wants to be affiliated with Ahlul Bayt and ascribe to the path of Ahlul Bayt. The narration, the Imam one of his companions. He says, الإيمان ما استقر في القلب وأفضى به إلى الله عز وجل وصدقه العمل بالطاعة لله والتسليم لأمره. Faith is what settles in the heart and what has been shown to God Almighty. It is what has been truthfully proven by action through obedience to God and submitting to His commands. Islam, on the other hand, والإسلام ما ظهر من قول أو فعل وهو الذي عليه جماعة من الناس من الفرق كلها. Islam, on the other hand, is simply what is apparent through words and actions. It is what is upheld by the masses of people from all sects. Through Islam, blood was protected, the right of inheritance was granted, and marriage was allowed. And because of Islam, people were united in prayer, zakat, fasting, and hajj, and thus were taken from disbelief into belief. The emphasis here with what the Imam is saying is that Islam, the body of Islam, unites us all. And we're going to be talking about in the nights to come, the different spheres of commonality that we have with our brothers and sisters in Islam. And with people that say La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, as well as the people that merely say La ilaha illallah. The commonality here and what we're emphasizing is Islam brought all of these people together. However, al-Iman is something that truly settled in one's heart. What's in your heart is going to be manifested into your actions. And Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, there's a beautiful narration where he says, what comes from the heart enters the heart. This is speaking about the things that we say and the way we engage with one another. Imagine how it feels and how it is when in your heart is the belief in these things truly. It's settled in your heart and become part of who you are. That every tenet of La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah becomes a part of your life. That if the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the one whom we've established, that وَمَا يَنْطِقُ عَنِ الْهَوَىٰ إِنْ هُوَ إِلَّا وَحْيٌ يُوحَىٰ, he does not speak out of whim, he is nothing but revelation. So anything he is telling me, it's as if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling me, I'm going to follow it. I'm going to make it a part of my life. And even if I fail, and even if I stumble, even if I sin, even if I make mistakes, I'm going to take myself back up, pick myself back up, and continue to go forward. The belief in the tenets of our faith as a practice, as that we take what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us through the beauty of Islam, and we make it truly a part of who we are by practicing it, is so fundamental. And that is in what we see in many of the narrations, the distinguishing factor between al-Islam and al-Iman. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala solidifies this for us in the example that's mentioned in chapter 49 of the Holy Quran, verse 14, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, قَالَتِ الْأَعْرَابُ آمَنَّا قُلْ لَمْ تُؤْمِنُوا وَلَكِنْ قُولُوا أَسْلَمْنَا وَلَمَّا يَدْخُلِ الْإِيمَانُ في قلوبكم وإن تطيعوا الله ورسوله لا يلتكم من أعمالكم شيئا إن الله غفور رحيم. The Bedouins, they say, we have faith. So when some of the people came into Islam, they said, آمنا. قالت الأعراب آمنا. The Bedouins say, we have faith. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala instructs the Prophet to tell them, قُلْ, say, you do not have faith yet. Rather say, we have embraced Islam, aslamna. For faith has not yet entered into your hearts. Yet if you obey Allah and His Apostle, He will not stint anything of the reward of your works. And God is all forgiving, all merciful. Again, emphasizing that in order for us to be believers beyond merely being Muslims and submitting and embracing Islam, it is to take what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us and obey it. So this is a point of reflection for many of us. When it comes to our relationship with the Prophet, before the relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Because the Holy Prophet ﷺ was sent to us for us to have a relationship with him, to have a relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Numerous verses from the Holy Quran, including this one, when it comes to obeying Allah and His Prophet. The obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes through who? Comes through the message of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In the emphasis that he gave was what? Always turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But you wouldn't know how to turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala if it was not for Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Through him, through the message that he delivered, and he implemented and shown to the people, we know what it means to turn ourselves to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Through Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's a point of reflection for us to see how much of our lives are a reflection of the life of our Holy Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him. And even if we feel that that is such a drastic distance for us, let us try to, if not be like the Holy Prophet. Of course, we need to be in obedience of him and what he has given us from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But if not be like Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, be like the companions of Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam, the ones who committed themselves to a lifestyle like the Holy Prophet and his Ahlul Bayt. The next example that Imam al-Baqir himself alayhi salam gives us to better understand the distinction between al-Iman wal-Islam is in a conversation that he has with one of his companions. His companion is asking him in this narration a series of questions of what is the reward of a believer versus the reward of a Muslim? Is there a difference between the two? And then looking at some of the verses of the Holy Quran, the companion going back and forth with the Imam, trying to understand again the distinction between Iman and Islam. He asks the Imam, can you give me some more? The Imam tells him, let me give you an example so that it really registers with you and inshallah you'll understand it. He said, okay, Imam, I'm all ears. The Imam tells him, look at the example of Masjid al-Haram and al-Kaaba. If somebody enters Masjid al-Haram, when they enter the Grand Mosque, have they entered the Kaaba itself? They come into the Grand Mosque, they come into Masjid al-Haram, and they're praying. Could I say that by merely entering into Masjid al-Haram that they prayed? He said, no, of course not. He said, what if I told you that the person prayed in the Kaaba itself? Have they not prayed in Masjid al-Haram? And he said, of course, because by merely being in the Kaaba, you have to have gone through Masjid al-Haram and entered the Grand Mosque. The Imam said, that is Islam and Iman together. Iman and Islam is the Kaaba, Iman is to Islam as the Kaaba is to Masjid al-Haram. In order for us to have that belief, to have that Iman, we have to go through Islam. We have to become ones who embrace Islam and what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us in this religion. But it's not necessarily that if we say La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah and accepting and embracing Islam that we have come into being believers and come into that faith and that Iman, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the verse that we just mentioned. In another conversation that the Imam has with one of his companions, one of the known companions of Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam, Zurara. Zurara narrates this in which he's having this discussion, and this is another discussion with the Imam. He's having this discussion with the Imam about Islam and its foundations. And the Imam says this beautifully, speaking about the foundations of Islam as in being 5. بني الإسلام على 5. بني الإسلام على 5 أشياء على الصلاة والزكاة والحج والصوم والولاية. Islam has been built on 5 things: prayer, alms, pilgrimage, fasting, and wilaya or allegiance. Zurara would ask the Imam following that. He said, what is the best out of these things? The Imam would reply and say, al-wilayatu afdal. What is best is al-wilaya, as it is the key to all of them. The wali, The Immaculate Imam is the guide to them. وَالْوَالِي هُوَ الدَّلِيلُ عَلَيْهِمْ. The Imam is the guide to those other tenets of the faith or the other foundations. The Imam continued by explaining that prayer and pilgrimage and fasting and all of those things, they followed wilayah. This wilayah of the Imam is so important. Why? Because it is what differentiates the continuation of understanding the message of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the details of our faith and our practice. Remember what we mentioned at the very beginning, the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam had a practical approach to the faith, to Islam. And he emphasized that practical approach through taking on the allegiance of Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam and the rest of Ahlul Bayt. There was a reason why the Prophet would say in his farewell speech to the people after his farewell pilgrimage that I'm leaving with you the two weighty things, the book of God and my household, Ahlul Bayti, my family. Because it is that wilayah of the Ahlul Bayt that allows us to keep the religion intact in its purest form, in what the Prophet ﷺ came with and gave to us. And this essence came with understanding that after the Prophet, there would be enormous challenges. Who would face those challenges? Who would preserve the religion that he brought forward? Who would talk to us about these challenges and how to meet them on a day-to-day? Of course, it would be Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. It would be from Imam Ali alayhi salam all the way to our living Imam, our awaited Imam al-Hujjat al-Mahdi, ajallahu ta'ala farajuh al-Sharif. The emphasis and the key point, the key takeaway here for us is to see the relationship between Iman and Wilayah is this understanding that you can say that you are one who is embracing Islam in your life, but we need to be practical with ourselves. Even if we say we are also embracing wilayah in our lives and we're taking Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam as the ones that we are following in our day-to-day, as our imams whom we love and we dedicate our lives to, it's important for us to understand that when you're looking at Iman and you're looking at wilayah, Iman and wilayah are going hand in hand for us to know this is truly how our Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam wanted us to be. And that is individuals who take what he said and what he did and implement it and make it a lifestyle for us. When it comes to the sha'air, the rituals, when it comes to the ibadat, the worships, the things that we're doing on a daily basis, inshallah, in the holy month of Ramadan, let us not be ones who are merely going by in the day and we're fasting and we're being hungry and thirsty. There's a narration attributed to Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam where he says, the number of people, and I'm paraphrasing here, oh, the number of people that are going hungry and thirsty and that are not actually fasting. And he was asked, what do you mean? What do you mean by this? And the narration would tell us that the Imam was referring to individuals that were not actually spiritually fasting, or not really, they may have been going through the motions themselves, but they weren't actually there present in heart and mind and living a lifestyle of fasting. When the Holy Prophet ﷺ and Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam were fasting, and the companions of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam were fasting, and they were in the holy month of Ramadan, they took it upon themselves to do all of the things that would bring them closer to God. We mentioned the other night about this idea of killing time and how we should not have that at all in our vocabulary in this month. And I know it's hard. There are long days. We're fasting for a decent period of time. And it's challenging. You're hungry, you're thirsty, you're dehydrated, you need that coffee in the morning, you can't get that coffee, you want to wake up for suhoor, and it's at 3 o'clock in the morning, and what's that coffee, the cup of coffee at 3 o'clock in the morning going to do for you at 12 in the afternoon, at noon, when you still have about 3 more meetings and calls with clients, etc., etc., etc. And you're home, and you want to just take a nap, and you want to, you know what, take a nap, it's fine. Do what you need to do. But
don't lose the opportunity that we have in this month. The emphasis with Iman, the emphasis with our belief and taking Islam as being beyond the individual whom different circumstances in the history of Islam, there were some individuals that just merely came into the faith because they wanted to escape being defeated in war. One of the examples of those individuals was Abu Sufyan at the time of the Prophet, and that the Prophet would refer to those individuals as at-tulaqa, that some of these individuals that we faced in war, that by mere virtue of being captured in that war, the Prophet would refer to them as the freed slaves. And they would free themselves, how? By being individuals who said, you know what, Aslamna, we're not going to fight you, O Muhammad, we're not going to transgress on you or your people anymore. We want to be one in your religion, one in your faith, and be protected by you. So Abu Sufyan and some of the people of Quraysh, they put themselves in that position where they accepted Islam. They said, La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. But imagine us being merely at that level, where we've said it, but we didn't bring it really into practice. That our day-to-day doesn't look like what someone who really believes it should look like. So I may be fasting, I may be praying, but I'm not present. I may be, saying that I believe in these things, but I'm not really, right? And again, now some of us may take a step back and be like, okay, wait, am I in that position? Am I there? Am I not really one who has this faith in my heart? It's a reflection for each and every one of us to do for ourselves. And if you're there, no worries. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us day in, day out, opportunity after opportunity, so that we can bring ourselves from Islam and deeper into Iman. You've gone into Masjid al-Haram, you're in the Grand Mosque, and the doors of the Kaaba are open. You can go right in there and you can pray in the Kaaba and be sure for yourself that you've gone into Iman and you've gone into Islam. But you need to make those steps towards that. And the one who is able to bring you into that Iman is by bringing Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his family and his household into your life, in the sense of, I want to look at what are the rituals that can bring me closer to them and ultimately closer to God. What are the worships, the ibadat, that I can take and implement in my life and bring me closer to them and ultimately closer to God? There are so many different ways. And that's why one of the most beautiful things is some of the works of our scholars for Mafatih al-Jinan by Shaykh al-Qummi, where he put all of these rituals and all of these worships for us to do every single day of the year. And in Shahr Ramadan, this is the month of God, and the doors of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy and essentially opportunity are wide open. So if we're distant from our religion, we're distant from our faith, this is the opportune time to bring ourselves closer. There is nobody who does not have the opportunity to take onto God's grace and hold onto his rope. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't turn anybody away. And he gives you chance after chance, even in the same day, in the same hour that you're sinning against God. He gives you that chance to come back. He gives you that chance to be that better version of yourself. He sees what you're doing. He sees what you did. He sees what you're going to do. And he wants you to be just your best. Take that opportunity. Take a chance on yourself and allow yourself to submit to God. Not in just in theory, not in just the words on your tongue, but open your heart up and allow Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to fill you up. For those of us that have experienced true hardship, for those of us who have hit rock bottom and terrible lows in our lives, I'm talking to you. I'm talking to myself. I'm talking to all of us. We've all experienced things. Today could be your day. Tonight could be your night. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving us this day in, day out. And these are simple reminders for us to do what? when we're turning to Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, we're ultimately turning to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They're just that beautiful ticket for us so that we make sure that we get there. We make sure that we're doing the right thing. We make sure that we see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the way He wants us to see Him. Now, we can draw a beautiful picture, but it's another thing when we see it come up and be constructed the way Zayd saw his blueprints come to life. It's one thing to be in Masjid al-Haram and another thing to be on the skirts of the Kaaba and its curtain and then even be allowed to be praying inside there. It's a whole different ball game. Let us move towards that direction. Let us get ourselves there, and it's not something that is beyond reach. It's something that Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam would emphasize and show us through a number of different examples, through a number of different things, how to get there. And inshallah, together, by focusing, by implementing these things in practice, be practical. And I'll mention this inshallah, and then we'll end for the night. A lot of people have this aim to read a juz of the Holy Quran every single night, so that they can, by the end of the 30 days of Shahr Ramadan, they could have done a khatma, a completion of the Holy Quran. Some people find that task to be daunting, especially those that may not read Arabic, or especially those who are not, much of readers anyway. Allow Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to at least through a few verses, take 10 verses a day. And I remember when I implemented this, as taught to me by one of my mentors, is listen, don't complicate it. Take 10 verses a day and read them. That made a huge change for me in my appreciation of God's word and realizing that God's speaking to me all the time and loves us so much that in every moment, He's giving me another breath, another opportunity to become closer to Him. And by becoming closer to Him, I'm understanding what this whole life is all about. So allow that to happen for yourself and don't stand in your own way. Inshallah, if we are within Islam, within embracing the religion, inshallah, the next step is to make that more of a practical reality for ourselves and implementing more of it into our lifestyle so that we can become closer to our faith and have iman settled in our hearts, inshallah. هذا والحمد لله رب العالمين وأفضل الصلاة والتسليم على نبينا محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين.